Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Facebook Live here on the Cole's Facebook Live channel. And Richard Cole, our resident expert, the founder of Cole's Wild Bird Products, is here to answer all of your birding questions. We're here every first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock. So get your questions ready. We really want to make this fun and interactive. We've got some fun things to talk about, some fun videos to show you today. And, just quickly go over some of the things we're going to talk about today, Richard.
Oh, today, action-packed, fun. We're going to talk about hummingbird season. And the biggest question we get during the summer, where's my hummingbirds?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about where your hummingbirds are. They're on the way. They're almost here. And we're also going to talk about what happens when you get a hummingbird coming to your feeder, and so often it's on the back side of the feeder. You can't see it. Or you just see the head popping out, or you just see a tail, and they tend to come right to that back side of the feeder out of view. So we've got some helpful hints for that. And that's a good topic, too. And we're going to talk about squirrels, how aggressive they can be, how good they can be at getting to your feeders.
It's always a cat and mouse game, isn't it? Trying
Always,
to keep
always.
those squirrels from eating all of your birdseed.
We'll go back over some of the time-honored helpful hints of stopping them. And we're going to talk about a brand new product from Cole's.
Oh, good.
And we're very excited about it. We've been working on this for a couple of years, and you know how we are. We want to make sure we got it right before we put anything out there.
Everything's got to be the highest quality.
It's got to be right.
That's really worth mentioning again. That's what caused Cole's to come about. The Cole's story, if you don't know, is that that Richard was so dedicated to getting squirrels to his feeder that he researched the highest quality seed. So everything that Cole's does, yes, I know, is very high quality.
If you're going to do it right. And over the years, it's paid off just to stick with the good stuff.
Right.
Don't try to put something out there just because it's cheaper.
Right.
Put it out there because it's the best.
Maybe it's too good. I literally had a Facebook post about maybe Cole's is too good because my feeders were covered. But it can't be too good. Just joking.
One of the first comments I got back many years ago, when someone tried our seed for the first time, and they came back and said, we had so many birds, we needed an air traffic controller. And they were just amazed. And I said, I always liked that. I asked their permission, could I use that term, needed an air traffic controller? And they were just thrilled. They were griping about how much seed they ate and loved every minute of it.
Absolutely. Because if you're going to feed the birds, you want to have a lot of them out there to feed.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
Let's just talk about hummingbirds.
Yes, I love this season. This is so much fun.
From the time summer starts a few months ago now, as soon as things get warm, people start saying, well, where are my hummingbirds? I had a lot of them last year. Where are my hummingbirds? Be patient. If hummingbirds are all over the United States, up into Canada, and typically they'll move through the southern states, spread out all through the north and up into Canada, up to Alaska even, and spread out for the breeding season and start raising young. If you're in a good breeding area for the hummingbirds, all during the summer, you're going to see a couple of birds every now and then, 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5, especially after the first brood's out. But you're not going to see hordes of them. And the hordes are on their way. Because after these guys have a brood or 2 broods and raise 2 to 4 birds, and hopefully a lot of them survive, then you have maybe twice the hummingbirds that moved up through the south, all are spread out around the north. They're all coming back. So while the very north areas will start seeing a slight reduction in their birds, which are probably breeding birds, and from North America, the United States, northern part of the U.S., all the way down, it just gets thicker and thicker as these guys move through, heading back to Central America, where they spend our winter, they'll spend down there where there's food. And so we'll see more and more, but it's just about now when that southward movement starts.
Good.
They finish the breeding. After that's over with, the young are out and flying. They don't have anything to do with one another, really. They all just start moving south. And that's when we get the big rush in the southeast and all across the southern United States.
Yeah.
And that's a fun time because we can see a lot of birds at our feeders.
Yeah, and just a quick reminder, I know you're always so good about pointing this out, is that you, especially during these really hot days of summer, you really got to watch getting the nectar changed often, right?
Yeah, it's important to keep the feeder clean and the nectar fresh. It's not hard to do. Just every now and then, look at your feeder. If you see any tinge of black or discoloration on it, give it a really light, quick bleach job. and hit it with a brush. Keep the feeder clean. Every time you go to fill it, rinse it out good, wipe it out with your hand, and fill it up. You'll see if it's starting to go bad, it'll get discolored, it'll start looking cloudy. Just change it. If it's above 90 degrees outside, that may happen in 2-3 days. Maybe a bug or two floating in it, not a real problem, but if it starts looking a little bit milky and not crystal clear, it's time to change that nectar.
Okay.
And you keep that nectar clean, keep the feeders clean, and put a few more feeders out.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in an area where you're going to get more and more birds as we get down toward the season where they're all gone or mostly gone. September. After September, you'll still see some birds in October. By mid-October, most of it's out of the way. You may see a straggler in the deep south down into really mid-October. And then past that, the only birds you should see are what we call winter hummingbirds, which are other species of hummingbirds that have migrated from where they were in their breeding thing to the southeast, the south, and sometimes the east coast all the way up into New York. You'll see a bird or two in the wintertime that can be spotted. And they went to where they thought they were supposed to be, and they'll spend the winter there if they survive. And there's a good chance, especially in the southern states, that they can survive because they eat insects and they can still find them in the wintertime.
Wow.
And
You leave your feeders out all year long, don't you?
And I encourage everybody to do that because after the rufous hummingbirds in the west and the black-chinned hummingbirds in the middle of the country and the ruby throats in the east have done their thing, raised their young, head Central America, they move on out. So by late November, December, there shouldn't be any hummingbirds around, yet we find them. And it's because they do this dispersion thing where they don't necessarily all go to where they're thought they're supposed to, but some of them come to the southeast, especially the southern states have more and more. As an example, Georgia now has, I believe, 12 or 13 species of hummingbirds documented to be here. Ruby throats in the summertime, 11 or 12 more species in the wintertime. We find onesie-twosies. They get reported, we get somebody out. They actually capture, document the bird, and put a little band on it. So we know exactly what's going on. And this happens all in the United States. Mm-hmm. It's always nice to keep your feeder out, because if there's a bird there, it might need a little of that food in the wintertime. And also it's good to know if a bird gets reported to somebody, your local wild bird type store, or somebody called the Audubon Society, say, look, I have a hummingbird coming to the feeder in the wintertime, and they should be able to get in touch with someone who will know what to do.
Right.
And probably what to do is you just keep the feeder clean for them, let them do what they're supposed to do, but someone may want to come out. There's people in the United States who have a special license to trap and band hummingbirds for research. And two of them work right here out of the Atlanta area. And they're very good at what they do, and they give us a lot of information about hummingbirds. So if they're around, they'll get out there, catch the bird, see what it really is. It's probably not one of the birds that was there in the summertime.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a bird from the west if you're in the east, and maybe ruby throat from the east might be over in the western United States in the wintertime.
So
something interesting to check for. Yeah.
So I wanted to let you know, and we want to encourage all of you to write in your experiences, write where you're watching from. We'd love to see that, and we want to engage with you. We want to hear your stories. We want you to ask your questions. So we have our first question from Ron Ballard. I'm just going to read it. I do see more hummers here in Georgia in fall, but they are very territorial and usually see one hummer at a feeder at a time. Is there any way to attract more at the same time, or is it really just up to them to decide if it will happen?
All of the above. All of the above. A couple of factors come into play. They're certainly all territorial. The immature birds, both males and females, are very aggressive with one another. The adult males obviously are aggressive. The adult females are aggressive. They want their food source protected. They see a food source, your feeder, they're going to try to protect that thing. They'll sit close by. Any bird even comes around, you see them buzz. So this is what you're watching. One bird dominating a feeder. Maybe 3 days later, that bird's moved on. There's another one taking its place to do the same thing. What can you do about it? First of all, you're lucky you've got more than one bird. So that's a good thing. 2, put out more feeders. Spread them around. If you're in a decent hummingbird area, you could have 5 or 10 feeders out. It depends on how many you want to work with. At least 2 or 3. Put them around in different spots that are not necessarily visually available to one another. So maybe around a corner, so a bird can peacefully sit on a feeder and can't be seen by the bird around the corner in a bush guarding its feeder. You'll still see fights, but more birds will come to the feeders. The other thing is just how many birds you have total. as I said, if you're way, way up north, your breeding birds right around there are move out quickly, so you won't see many hanging around in fall time. And these birds, as they all move south, will do their best to eat more and more and more. So they get down to the Gulf area or the southern areas in the west, getting ready to move into Central America. They want to get as much fat as possible. So they just hang on to the feeders, they protect them with their lives, and drive all the birds off. If it gets, you may notice if you ever watch, if it starts drizzling rain or it's slightly cool in the late summer, early fall when they're moving through, all of a sudden, you've probably seen this, you'll see more than one bird on a feeder. It's unusual, but what's happened is they must eat. They can't afford, because of the weather and what they're trying to do, they can't afford to fight because it burns too much energy. So they'll just put aside their angst, and 2 or 3 will sit at a feeder and feed. Then they'll pretend to fight a little bit, but if they can't, if the weather's not cooperating, they need the food, they'll all share a feeder. I've seen birds literally on top of each other, one on top of the other, 2 beaks, 3 beaks at a time into a feeder port, trying to eat.
I want to see that.
Because it was cool weather in the mountains, and they had to eat.
Right, and I do want to see that, and that's a great hint. So also, I know you've got some hints about how to get them to come around where you want to see them.
Yeah.
You get a great hint for that.
One of the problems of trying to watch hummingbirds, especially when there's just 1 or 2 at the feeder, here's a feeder that's used a lot right here. It's a nice feeder, a little hard to clean and everything, but it's a great feeder. You hang it out, and you're in here watching the feeder. Where's the bird come? It comes to the backside. Mm-hmm. Just for most of the time, it's right there. Right. You can't see the bird through the feeder. So you got a problem. We've got a solution. Painter's tape.
Yep.
Cheap, easy. Just tear off a little piece. Just put it right across the feeder like that, right across the port. It'll stay. It won't come off in the rain. It doesn't gum up your feeder, and it blocks that port. So the bird will come look there and come around to a port on the side where you can actually see it feed. And actually, the side view is one of the best views. So that's a helpful hint. And I've been doing that for years, and it works very well. Sometimes I'll pull a feeder out next year and still have a piece of tape stuck on it.
Yeah.
So
and you get them to just come around so that you can watch them, right?
Yeah, force them around to the side of the feeder you want to see them on.
Yeah. That's great.
There's something else you could really do to see the birds better. Don't worry about putting the tape on there. Get a feeder. A selfless promo right here.
Selfless promo.
Cole's Hummer High Rise feeder. And the great thing about this is, you can see the birds, the birds are up on a perch. Here, it's up above, so the birds sit and reach down. You can see through, no matter where the bird is, it's raised up above the feeder. You get a great view of that bird.
It is so cute because you can see their little feet way up there. I love it. We have one, and I absolutely love it. And they're easy, and I love the ant moat.
They do. It's got a very, very deep ant moat. I'll show you real quick on one of these other feeders. They feign an ant moat. It's a little teeny thing right here. Some water may collect in. It's gone very quickly. This has a nice reservoir of water. You can pour a little 1/4 cup of water down in here. The ants can't get here and swim across the moat to get to your feeder. And sometimes the birds will drink out of it also.
And that's enjoyable. I mean, to see them, because I don't have a fountain out there for them, but they'll come and just take a quick little sponge bath, and then they'll get something to drink. So it's great.
So this time of year, more birds are going to be coming. They're going to be hungry. They're going to start fighting. And put several feeders out. Like I said, visually separated. If you have more birds, you can have them just a few feet apart. They'll come to them if there's a lot of birds, depending on how many birds you have.
Yeah.
And another very important thing is, what do you put in them? And this is something that's near and dear to my heart because I love hummingbirds. And I've been involved in hummingbird research for a lot of years. And I want to make sure that when they come to my house, they're taken care of. So I always put good stuff in there. Kohl's has looked at the solution. We see products out on the market that these are for hummingbirds, and most of the ones we saw, we just pick up, look at the label, and just cringe. Oh my goodness!
Really?
Look at what's in this stuff. I mean, instead of hummingbirds drink nectar, you have to look at what nectar's made of, and a lot of people take plain sugar table sugar, it's fine. Mix it with water, put it in there, and put it in a hummingbird feeder. And that's great. The companies that are out there tend to use preservatives and put artificial coloring in there, and that's not as great. We've got something kind of like our other products. This is, look at that, a brand new product.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And it's Kohl's Nature's Garden Hummingbird Nectar. And it's not just any nectar. We researched for what the birds actually get out of flowers. And there's basically 3 different sugars.
Really?
3 different sugars involved in natural nectar that they receive from the flowers. And it's in a certain percentage. So we know what the precise or average amount of sugars in the fluids they're drinking from the flowers. And we know what 3 types of sugars that they're getting from that. So that's what we did.
It's about time. No preservative,
And-
no dyes, no mixing or boiling.
No.
It's just
It's-
easy.
it's-
You put it right in. Do you
it's
keep
ready
it
to go.
refrigerated?
No need to.
Yeah.
You can.
Okay.
I always do that myself.
Yeah.
Just for the heck of it, but it's going to be fine unless something gets in there it shouldn't. You just open it up, pour what you need, put it back.
Did you ever taste it?
Yeah, of course.
Does
Of
it
course.
taste about the same as like what you boil
Yes,
and make?
Yes, and you know the thing about the boiling and all, people get into the boiling, and that's great. You take tap water, which is fairly clean, and sugar, which is fairly clean. You put it together, and then you boil it. Then you put it in an unsanitary condition outside in an open feeder. You're wasting your time boiling it.
Yeah. That's been a great hint that you've said to me.
As long as it's warm enough to melt your sugar if you make
Right.
it yourself, that's fine. This you don't have to worry about making it yourself.
Yeah.
And you get 3 different sugars. See if I can get this right. Sucrose, we're all familiar with sucrose. Glucose, another one of the sugars, and fructose.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And so those 3 sugars, and I won't go into how much of each one goes into it, but like
Yeah.
I said, we have mimicked what's normally found in nature.
Yeah.
And like I said, no preservatives, no art. Let me read the instructions. How about read the ingredients? Spring water and organically sourced sugars. And I named 3 sugars.
Yeah.
That's the
it.
ingredients.
Yeah.
And
It's about time. And it's so easy. That's what I love about it. I just,
it is.
you know, there's nothing easier than just opening that and then pouring it in the feeder.
Yeah. And it's got a nice resealable top. This won't take up a lot of room. You lay it flat
Yep.
or stand it up. And it's a good product. We're very
Yeah.
excited about it. I said
Of course.
we decided we'd do it right.
Yep.
And the hummingbirds will love it. And
And we want to hear your reviews of
yeah,
it.
come into a
Yeah,
store
so
near you,
Try
so.
it and yeah, go to any
and
place that
if
sells
you don't see it,
Kohl's.
if they've got the Kohl's seed, tell them to get the Kohl's hummingbird nectar.
Absolutely. So I can't get enough of these hummers, but let's move on. I think we've covered the hummers, right? Everything about the hummers. Let's talk about the constant battle with the squirrels, and I want to encourage everyone. I'm looking over at the laptop every once in a while because I want to gauge your questions. If you have a question for Richard, who is such an expert, please go ahead and ask your questions during this. This is your time to do it. So we do want to move on to the squirrels. We have some great video, and I'm sure if you guys feed the birds, you know how resourceful those squirrels are. But let's go ahead and show some video. So this is video that at my house where this squirrel is showing me just how squirrel proof this feeder is.
Whoops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How squirrel proof is that?
Yeah. There's a whole range of these types of feeders. They started off as a one-sided feeder, and somebody thought it'd be a great idea to put 2 sides. They're somewhat effective, but not terribly, as you see by this. We climb up the pole, they can hang onto the pole, reach up, hold on the side of the feeder, stick their hand in and rake the seed out. You see a lot of it falling, so they're up there raking it to their mouth. The ones that are similar to that, like a metal barn, and have one side are a little more effective, but same way they can get on the side, reach in and get it.
Right. The whole idea of this feeder
And,
is that, if they're heavy, they're going to
It'll close
sit
it,
on that
yeah.
and it closes up. Well, the squirrel has said, that's not going to stop
It'll
me.
fool some of the
I'm
squirrels.
not going to
some of the
sit
time.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? For a long time, this didn't happen. But then when that squirrel figured that out, forget it. Like, he's
Then the
on
rest
it
of them
all
see
the
it,
time. Right.
And they say, oh,
Right.
that's how you do it. They
Right.
learn from each other very, very quickly.
This didn't happen for a long time.
Yeah.
We probably had that feeder for 4 years, and when it started happening, now it happens all the time.
I've got a good solution.
I know, you do.
Kohl's has a product. It's been out for quite a few years now. It kind of was a revolution in the bird feeding world, and it's Kohl's hot meats, pure sunflower meats, infused with habanero chili concentrated
Right.
oil. It's very hot to the taste. Squirrels don't like the hot taste. They're mammals. They can taste it. Birds can't taste the heat.
Right.
That spice means nothing to them. So it's very effective at stopping squirrels. I have a feeder on my back porch. It's on a deck with a roof, and so there's no way to stop the squirrels because there's railings. So I just hang the feeder right there, right where I can see it, right out in front of the window. And so what am I going to do? A big, heavy-duty, squirrel-proof feeder or something? No. I just put a regular feeder that I like, and I put Kohl's hot meats in it. And there's 2 other blends of the hot seed that Kohl's produces and has available for everybody. And you just put that in the feeder, and the squirrels maybe come by and taste it, and they're out of there. They don't like it. It's too hot for them, and the birds love the stuff.
Okay, so Ron Ballard has one more question.
Okay.
Did you taste it?
Go right. Did I taste the... Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's...
That seems to be the theme today, right,
Yeah,
Richard?
yeah. We're gonna have to do a taste test one day of some of these things.
That'd be funny. That'd be really
One
funny.
of the ways when we developed the Kohl's hot products that would keep the squirrels from eating the food was to taste how hot it is. And so we did a lot of that. And we found out it takes a lot of heat to stop the squirrels, because if they're hungry, it's like us. If we're hungry, we'll tend to eat things we
Right.
wouldn't normally eat. So we got it. It's really hot.
Yeah.
2 or 3 little kernels of this, that's all you want, and it will burn.
Yeah.
But
And
it's harmless. It's just it's a sensation. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt the squirrels. Certainly doesn't hurt the birds. And the squirrels tend to leave it alone.
Yeah.
So yes, it's hot. There's also the way we get the concentrate on there is reduced and concentrated to a point, and we have what they call a Scovilleity rating. Scovilles are units that measure how hot something tastes. And they can look at the chemistry inside the organic compounds and say, well, this is the hot part of the chili pepper oil. This is what's actually going to put the burn in, and to use it. Some of your hot sauces out there, and a lot of the hot sauces out there commercially sold, use this capsaicin or reduced or concentrated chili oil to enhance the heat in their food
Right,
products.
right.
And so it's the same principle. We're using that, but it's on the bird seed and done properly to get it into the bird seed so it really has an effect on them.
Yeah.
And it's highly effective and makes it so much easier. Just put a nice feeder there. Squirrel comes and goes away. The birds will eat right there in front of you without having to do anything weird or fancy.
Right. I think we need to show one more video, too, of the squirrels, just illustrating. Richard got this video as part of his research into into squirrels and how crafty they are. Look at that.
This is over 10 feet away, that tree is. And the feeder is like 6 feet off the ground. And I never thought a squirrel was going to be able to make that jump.
Well, he
There
showed
you
you.
go.
I
Super
wouldn't have
squirrel.
thought they would be that daring. They are daring little creatures. They
And-
are so agile.
And I was fortunate to catch that.
Yeah,
I've
you
never
were.
seen a squirrel. That feeder has been there 12 years. And this was a few years ago. I'd never seen a squirrel do that before. And I haven't seen one since that one left. I figured it had 3 broken legs or something. But I don't
Yeah.
know.
Don't bring that squirrel over here
Yeah.
and show all the rest of our squirrels that trick.
So
They are
they are
amazing.
very aggressive. They're very good at getting the feeders.
Mm-hmm.
And just be diligent. Look where you put the feeder. Get it away from something they can easily jump from.
Yeah.
And look at the literature and try to find a feeder that looks like it was really squirrel-proof.
Mm-hmm.
A single-sided iron one is okay. There's several others where things close down. They work okay. If you can't do that, just put Kohl's hot meats in it.
Yeah, that's a simple, easy solution. Okay, so let's talk about, I did have a question about when birds like to feed the most, because I noticed right after a big rainstorm in the afternoon, my feeders were covered with birds, more birds than I've ever seen. Lots of birds. They were just trying to knock each other off each one of those little ports.
They were hungry.
They were, yeah. And look at how popular, like, the seed in the foreground is. I believe that's special feeder.
Of course.
But they were just, they could not get enough of that. And then that safflower and then the sunflower meats in the meats house. But, so I had asked you, and this is what I wanted to know, like, do they seem to be more hungry after a rainstorm?
They seem to. Really, there's 3 times a day of each day that you'll see birds feeding a lot, kind of like us. They get up in the
Maybe
morning,
so.
they're hungry. It's time to eat, time to get fuel for the day. So early morning,
Is it like sunrise?
yeah.
Anytime.
You'll
Okay.
hear birds singing, especially in
Yeah.
the summertime breeding season, well before the sun's out, and they're getting up. They're ready to go find food. So they get out and hit the food sources early. So maybe up till 9:30 or 10 o'clock, you see a lot of activity, especially a little bit earlier, and then it wanes a little bit, and you'll see some more probably noon to 2, and sometimes 3. You see a group of birds coming in to feed. And the next busy period is late afternoon, but right before they go to bed. And they do tend to go to bed early. Cardinals and all may stay out a little later. They tend to be very early and very late. But most of the birds, by 5 o'clock, it's time to go. But it's kind of like us. They just need to eat early, need to eat late because they got to go without food now for a while. And in the middle, they're just filling up when they can get the food. Then when it rains, I don't know exactly why that is. We can speculate that, well, they just had to sit for a while without being able to forage.
Yeah,
Then
maybe
maybe
so.
an hour,
Yeah.
they're just hanging onto a limb, waiting on the rain to stop, and then they can run out and get something. Maybe it feels a little cooler, maybe it's a little wet. But yeah, they'll hit the feeder right afterwards.
Maybe they're a little bit like us that when they know there's a snowstorm, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we have to stock up, and they know it just rained. I gotta stock up.
Hurry
now.
up and get some food. It may continue to rain.
Yeah,
That could well be
yeah,
it.
we got a break in the rain. Let's go eat. Yeah.
But they do that. And there's a side question to this, and I think a lot of people, I've heard it before, they all seem to come together. You'll see chickadees, titmice, and all the different birds right there together at the same
Right.
time. It's almost like they're following each other around.
Yeah.
They are a little bit. Some of these birds will tend to stay in what I call loose flocks. They tend to move around with one another through the forest. And you'll see periods where there's, especially if you're walking in the woods or at your feeders, there's just nothing, no birds. It's not like the chickadees are here, they're gone, here come the titmice, here come the blue jays. It's either all or nothing.
Yeah.
A few here and there, but they do tend to move around in these loose groups, and it's probably for protection. And it's, wait a minute, Fred may have found some food over there, let me go check it out.
Yeah.
And they're all watching each other and seeing where they're
Yeah.
feeding. A lot of them feed in different niches around, some of them on the side of trees, some of them under the leaves, some of them on the ground, but they just tend to follow each other. And there's probably some protection from predators in that methodology.
Right.
When
Yeah.
one gives an alarm call, blue jays are good at that, then everybody scatters.
Yeah, I noticed we'll see, and particularly right now, and we talked about this before the show started, probably so many feeding right now. We're seeing a ton of birds at the feeder. We're going through a lot of culls right now just because the babies are out there, right? And
Yes.
so there's a lot of demand with trying to feed the babies and the new babies that are coming to eat, right?
There's a lot more birds as you get toward the end of the breeding season, really late May, June, July, just down in August. Pretty much all the breeding birds are done with. And if you think about it, each 2 birds is going to produce maybe 3 to 5 other birds. That's from 2 birds, they add 5 more. Whoops, you got a lot more birds out there to feed. So right as the breeding season wears down, you'll see a lot of birds coming to the feeders.
Yeah. So we have a comment here, and thank you so much, Kathy, for posting your comment. She says they take naps, but yes, cardinals like to come late when the feeders clear out. They like to have them to themselves, I guess.
Yes, and animals evolved to take advantage of certain things. Cardinals, a good example. They will get up earlier, and the early bird gets the worm sort of
Yeah.
and then they'll stay out a little later. Well, there's not as much competition during those periods, the diurnal periods. There's not as much competition with the other birds. A long time ago, I noticed the nuthatch group, and you watch some of them, and the creepers. They feed on the side of trees, and the woodpeckers. You see some of them work their way up a tree, head up. Others work their way down a tree, head down.
Yeah.
And that's the way each one of those different types of birds feed. Well, wait a minute. The ones going up find the bugs under the bark. The The ones come
Yeah.
down find them in the top edges.
Yeah.
So they have evolved these different ways to feed, maybe in the same area, different ways
Yeah.
to take advantage of food the other one missed.
Yeah.
So a lot of these can work together in groups and not really compete as much. The other ones do it by managing their time, feed early, feed late, and they all work it out. And
Yeah.
they've all, so we got a wide variety of times they can feed, places they can feed, things they eat.
Yeah, and just like bluebirds have
yeah.
basically evolved to start coming to feeders, which I didn't know that until I started doing this. We're just about out of time. Any other words of advice you want to leave us with?
Hummingbirds. Just make sure, put plenty of feeders out, make sure they're clean, and enjoy the little guys. Sit and watch them for a while, and know that they're headed for Central America. They're going there for a nice summer. Maybe think about taking a trip down there to watch them down there for a while. That'd
Yeah,
be
that
fun.
would be neat.
Yeah.
And one other thing I do want to mention about the Coles Hummer High Rise is it's dishwasher safe. That's what I like. You talk about cleaning them.
Yeah,
So easy.
we talked here about the other one being
Yeah.
really difficult to clean so many parts.
That's so easy. You
This is
gotta
just
love it.
way
Yeah.
easy to clean and way easy to handle and way easy to hang. There's no little funky
Little
wire or
intricate
anything.
parts, yeah.
It's just done.
Yeah, I love the ease of that.
Of course, I would say it's a nice feeder.
It is. It's very nice. Of course, but has the Coles name
Yeah.
on it. Thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget, we're here every first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock so that Richard Cole, the founder of Coles Wild Bird Products, can answer your birding questions. Have a great week.